Yo, 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 it's the Co.
And yo, it's the Cone, and today we have our very early top five best and worst transfers of this summer window. Pretty simple. We'll probably start with the best just so that we can be a little happy, be a little happy early on. Um, So this can be because we think it's good business, because we think the player's going to do great. It could be a bunch of different things. We'll explain it more when we choose them. Marco, you got anything for us?
No?
Marco, do you have any honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions? I do. I just have one for best signing. I have Edson Alvarez. I think he's a very great player. We've seen him come off the bench and perform great against Chelsea. We've seen him start and he's been doing great. I think he's gonna have a shining year this year with West Ham, and I hope it continues.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I have two only because I forgot one of them until like the very end, like right when we were about to start this. My first one is Amrabat to Man United. And the reason that I have that is just because of the money involved. It's a loan. The fee is relatively big for a loan, but with a 21 million pound buy option, it's a pretty good piece of business and someone that can really make the most of that midfield. My other one is Ansu Fati to Brighton. I couldn't put it in the top five because it's just a loan with no buy option clause, so he's just going back to Barca at the end of the year. But it's a really good move for his development. So good works out for everyone.
To start off with my fifth player of the best transfers this season, I have Lionel Messi for Inter Miami. In 10 matches, he has 11 goals and 3 assists. No one's going to stop him. No one is going to stop him. He dominated against the two best teams in the MLS. One yesterday, and the other one was Philadelphia Union. Both at their homes. He won the Leagues Cup with Miami pretty easily. Is leading them to a playoff run in the MLS, and it could happen that he could win the U.S. treble with Miami if they keep going.
Yeah, that's not a bad person to put in there. My fifth best transfer for the year is Brennan Johnson to Spurs. 47.5 million pound fee. I've talked about him many times on the channel. I think he's insanely talented, and it's a move that's pretty good for both sides. I mean, Forrest got him when he was like 8 years old, so obviously didn't pay a dime for him, full profit, making a lot of money off of him. But Spurs get a really good deal for an incredible youngster in the Premier League.
For my fourth player, I have Mateo Kovacic, or, in my opinion, the Croatian KDB. He is playing in the spot that Kevin De Bruyne was supposed to be playing this year. Disappointing on his injury, but he seems to be playing it very well. KDB's role this year was supposed to be a little different. He was supposed to play in the back two, or the middle two with Rodri, and they were just going to control the whole midfield. And when he got injured, Kovacic came in. He stepped up. He played the position that KDB played, and he played it very well. And he's the starting center mid right next to Rodri, and that's why I have him at 4.
My 4, I have James Maddison to Spurs. I feel like maybe it's a little low. I could have put him higher. But for 40 million pounds, averaging a goal or an assist per game so far in 4 Premier League games with Spurs, I mean, he's a game changer. And when you see him, I kind of consider him like a Bruno. Like, he deserves to be with Bruno and Odegaard in that conversation, with those top attacking midfielders this season in the Prem. He's just so good, and I think he gets better with the better people around him. So for 40 million to have him at 26 only, It's a really great deal.
For my third player, it's a player we've been talking about a lot on the channel. It's Newcastle's new signing, new Italian masterpiece, Sandro Tonali. He is the centerpiece of Newcastle. He seems to be playing very well. I know Newcastle are on a slump right now, but with Tonali, they've been playing very well. He scored on his debut. The very first goal Newcastle saw, it was Sandro Tonali. He seemed to be like fine wine when he was out there because he was just doing, he was so good.
Fine Italian wine, Sandro Tonali is. My third best transfer for this window is Christian Pulisic to AC Milan. 17.1 million pounds. All it took for Milan to get Pulisic. I think he was really overhated and underappreciated at Chelsea. I understand there were some fitness issues, not staying healthy and everything, but I think this performance that you're seeing at Milan shows that he wasn't the problem. It was he wasn't in the best environment, goes to Milan, scores in their first 2 games. It's just such a difference maker. He knows where to be. If he has the ball at his feet, he can make something happen. Just a great player. It looks like he's playing how he plays for the U.S. men's national team, which is being one of, if not the best player on the pitch every single game.
Yeah, the kid from Hershey in Milan, With my second best transfer this year, I have James Maddison here. In just 4 games, he has 2 goals and 2 assists. He's been contributing with the team very well. Seems to know where to put the ball. He's just amazing. The only thing keeping him down is Richarlison up in the front, which is very, very bad for him.
Yeah, my number 2 is someone that you've already had on your list. It's Sandro Tonali to Newcastle. 55 million pounds, 23 years old, difference maker. Has a goal in his debut. Like you said, Newcastle have been struggling, but he still looked pretty good the whole time. At 23, he's got 5, 6, 7 years at Newcastle, without a doubt, being a top midfielder.
With my number 1, I think it has to be both of our number 1s. I have Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham in 4 games in La Liga has 5 goals and 1 assist for 100 million pounds at only 19 years old or 20. He is the best midfielder in the world, in my opinion, right now, because the way he plays. I was going to put him down a lot lower because Real Madrid is already a team that's set with stars and seems to be shining out with anyone they sign. But he was the man of the match for 3 out of the 4 first games that they had. And he has scored in all 4 games. Like, he's amazing.
My number 1 is, and no surprise, it's Jude Bellingham as well. It's sad that you went first because everything that you said I was going to say. I think he's the best midfielder in the world. I don't think people understand. This doesn't happen. People don't go to Real Madrid as a 20-year-old. He's younger than both of us. As a 20-year-old, shows up and is the best midfielder in the world from day one. We know how great he was at Dortmund. We know the impact that he had at Birmingham City to make the move to Dortmund. This doesn't happen. I feel like that's just the thing that I have to reiterate. Like, it's unbelievable. He's playing out of his mind. He has at least 2 match-winning goals. It might be 3. It's at least the last 2 weeks he's had the match-winning goal. He had 2 goals and an assist in a 3-1 win in his second game. He scored in his first game. I mean, he's different. He's him. Yeah, we haven't seen a player like him in a very long time, and I'm so excited to continue to see what he does for England and for Real Madrid.
He has more goals than Hazard ever had at Real Madrid.
That's crazy. That's crazy to me. 4 games is all it took as a midfielder too. All right, now that we've been all positive,
let's go all negative,
Let's move on to the 5 worst transfers of the year. Marco, do you have any honorable mentions? Because I do not.
Yeah, I do. Mason Mount. For the amount of money they bought him for, to not contribute a goal in the first 2 games that he played, and to get injured, I just feel like it shouldn't have been that much money for him. I know he could turn around his whole season in a couple of weeks, but as of now, he's my honorable mention.
I didn't have any honorable mentions, so I guess I'll just go first here with my number 5. I had Mason Mount as well, and I want to preface by saying I don't think this is going to end up being a bad transfer. He's young. He's still really, really talented. I think Ten Hag, the whole staff will get the most out of him. But just because of what we've seen so far in that first game, they were clearly not comfortable in that midfield together, him, Bruno, and Casemiro, and you could tell all 3 of them were not comfortable with the layout. The second game looked better against Spurs, but then he picks up the injury, so you're right back to square one when he comes back. Yeah, it's not great. I think he was the best midfielder out of the 3 of them in the game against Spurs. He was the worst against Wolves, but I think he showed a bit of improvement, a bit more comfortability in the system. But for now, I have to put him at 5, and I think he will prove me wrong.
I feel it with Mason Mount, it's going to be like a Jack Grealish kind of situation. For my 5th worst transfer is Cole Palmer. I hate putting him on here. That's why I put him at 5th. But he's such a great young player, and I feel like in that Chelsea squad, he's going to get a little more playing time than he had at Man City, but it's with a team with no chemistry. I feel like he's not going to shine on this team because of that. We both had him as our honorable mentions in breakout year, but with Chelsea, I don't think he breaks out.
So you're saying it's not the player, it's where he went is why he may not do as well as he should.
If you went to any other team, even Arsenal, I think he would be the better player there.
No, I'm with you there. It's like, despite how talented he is at Chelsea, he's a dime a dozen.
Yes.
Like, because they just have anyone that you can think of, they have. Okay. I'm okay with that. I was a little caught off guard at first, but yeah. My number 4, I have David Raya to Arsenal. It's a loan originally with the buy option. He's gonna be an Arsenal player for the next few years. The only reason that I don't like this is because I don't love that Brentford got rid of him. I think it hurts their team a lot, and they are a team that I think can contend for Europe, but now without David Raya, I don't know if they can. I like that Arsenal have competition now with Raya and Ramsdale, but I don't think it's going to be as even time-wise as people think. So far, it's only been Ramsdale that's got the games, and I think it's going to continue to be Ramsdale until he proves otherwise, which means it's going to be a lot of Raya not playing. Maybe Raya gets a string of games, and then Ramsdale doesn't play for a while, and someone's going to be unhappy all the time, I think, is why I have this as low as it is.
For my 4th, I have Romelu Lukaku. I think after the World Cup, he has been pretty bad. I know he's still scoring goals, but he's been pretty bad, and I think it's going to be worse in this Roma side. Like, I hope he proves me wrong, but I feel like he's going to be a late minute person off the bench where he won't get his full potential out on the field. That's why I have him as my 4th.
Yeah, they have Dybala, they have Tammy Abraham. At my 3, I have Robert Sanchez to Chelsea. £25 million for, in my opinion, a backup goalie who now has to play for them because they got rid of Kepa. I don't love it. I think Brighton were bringing in Bart Verbruggen to be the number 1, or if not the number 1, they were going to have Jason Steele play a bit and then Verbruggen take over pretty soon. But Sanchez was not in the pecking order. Like, he was down. And they got $25 million for him, which is really great business for Brighton. And he's just really average. And I guess that's kind of the story of Chelsea's transfers so far in the last year or so, barring a couple exceptions. I'm sorry, Enzo Fernandez. But yeah, just not great business for Chelsea to get a guy that wasn't going to start for his club for 25 million.
For my third, and I don't like putting him on here because I thought I put him ahead of all the goalkeepers in the Premier League this year. I have Andres Onana. I don't think it's his fault. You just hear me out. He's been getting very unlucky with bounces, but he has a very bad back four with players being injured, with how players are performing, and it just doesn't seem to be the defense fault at the moment. They're all just blaming it on Onana because he's been screaming at everyone, blah, blah, blah. But he has one clean sheet that, in my opinion, shouldn't have been a clean sheet. It should have been a 1-1 draw. With the defense, if I could put the United defense on here as like the worst player, I would. But they didn't get transferred in. It was Onana. So that's why I have him as my third. I want him to prove me wrong this year because I seen the potential he has had with Ajax, with Inter Milan. But with the bad performance of the defense and the defense being injured, I have to put him on here.
Yeah, it's not a goalie issue. It's a defense issue. But because the goalie is the one that technically is the one that's supposed to stop the goals, the blame can be put on him. When you're running a back four with Dalot, Harry Maguire, Johnny Evans, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, sorry, there's not much you can do, especially against Arsenal, who have a pretty sound attack. You're taking on a 35-year-old Johnny Evans, who just played for a Leicester team that got relegated. Let's be real.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. My number 2, I have Romeo Lavia to Chelsea. I know he's young. He will probably prove me wrong because I do think he's a really talented player. Chelsea don't need more people at the midfield. He hasn't even been on the sub bench yet, and he's been there for 2 or 3 games. £53 million and 5 million add-ons to not make even the bench yet. I mean, they have Enzo and they have Caicedo, who they want them to be the midfield of the future. I don't know where Romeo Lavia fits into this team long term. Again, he's really talented. I think he will prove me wrong eventually, but similar to a Grealish, similar to potentially a Mount, I think it takes a year to really set in for him to become a difference maker.
It's kind of like a Cole Palmer situation.
Yeah.
Like Cole Palmer recently just got signed, and he's having more play time than Lavia. It's disappointing with Chelsea. With my second, Mr. 007, it really isn't his fault with Kai Havertz. It really isn't his fault. But he's been playing in the midfield, a position he rarely has played. And when he did play at Chelsea, he did not shine. And I feel like Arteta needs to kind of fit him in up in the front three. But you really can't because you have Martinelli, you have Gabriel Jesus, you have Saka, you have Nikita. Like, you can't play him up there, so you kind of have to force him to play in the midfield, and I feel like he won't shine in this very good Arsenal team, and that's why I have him as my second.
Yeah, my number 1 worst transfer of the window is Kai Havertz to Arsenal. £62.5 million for him. I kind of liked Kai Havertz. I thought he was fine. I thought he got a bad rap at Chelsea, but because they were just such a jumbled team of nothing. But unfortunately, he goes to Arsenal, and the problems worsened even, maybe. He just can't score or pass or dribble or run or position, which is it's kind of everything, right? I don't think he's not a midfielder, and when you play him with Odegaard in the middle, it's kind of similar to a Casemiro Mount Bruno thing, where Rice, who I think Rice is great, and I'm a bit surprised neither of us had him on our best, but I think that's kind of just one of those, like, it was a lot of money, but he's going to just be solid. It's just who he is. But it's tough for one defensive midfielder to cover all of the space in front. Luckily, Odegaard is smart and good, but with Havertz, there's not much balance to that midfield then, because he's an attacker in a midfielder's body. I don't know what to think of his outlook for the future. It scares me a bit, but I guess we'll see. But for now, it's not good.
For my number one, like you said before, that you have to put money in consideration. I have Moises Caicedo. Yeah, my number one. I feel like Chelsea overpaid. I feel like Chelsea or Liverpool were going to overpay. But I feel like for being the most expensive signing in history, you have to perform better than you have. With his first game at Chelsea, he came in and he gave up a penalty. How do you give up a penalty when you are 132 million pounds, like 132 million dollars? Like, you should be playing way better than the money. Like, I give Brighton an A++ with this sign, like with the transfer, and I give Chelsea a C. With the arrival of Liverpool in the transfer market for Caicedo, it really put a lot of pressure on Chelsea to overpay so they could get a great player like him. I feel like it's going to take a lot more time, as we see with all these Chelsea players. They just seem to be racking up midfields like it's the Saudi League out here. Like, they're just signing players because they have a good background, they've been playing very good, and because they're young. They need to kind of reinvest in this whole lineup. Like, we saw the fire sale that happened this summer, but they also spent a lot more money for players who are not playing very well.
Yeah, it sucks for Caicedo because he was never going to join Liverpool. But then all of that comes out about, Liverpool. They agreed to Liverpool's bid and all that, and he's going to be a Liverpool player. He was never going to Liverpool. He was Chelsea all the way. So it added a lot of pressure on Chelsea to up the bid so that it would actually be accepted. But then that adds a lot more pressure on Caicedo too. The high price tag, as much as people don't think that they look at it, right? They feel like they have to perform to this price tag, and it's tough, especially in that Chelsea team, which is just kind of 11 people on the field with no chemistry. It's tough. It's going to take time, like you said. For now, it's not great. He hasn't had a great start, but he's young, he's talented, he should be okay. By the end of the year, it should be better. He shouldn't be in the number one spot, I don't think. Well, guys, that is our best and worst transfers of the transfer window. If you agree, disagree, feel like we missed someone, put it down in the comments below. Marco, you got anything?
Nope, just like, subscribe.
Yeah, all that. Until next time. See you guys later.